Good Sunday morning. Welcome once again to God Is Not Mad at Me. I'm your host, Adam Greer, and today we're going to continue to destroy destructive beliefs and teachings within the church. We're going to continue with fallacy number 3. This is part 2 of It's the Narrow Way or Else. So come along. Quick recap just to get us all back on the same page from last week. Last episode, I had mentioned that religion is a bully, a thug, using blackmail to keep fear alive and keep the masses under submission. That's how blackmail works. That's what its point is. His standard slogan is, "You're a mess. How could you possibly approach a holy God in such a sorry state? You need to go make more fig leaves." That's the most famous word out of religion's mouth. May not be worded exactly like that, but how can you approach God in your state? It works. We're afraid to come into the house of grace. We're stuck outside in the parking lot, remember, trying to get right. Afraid to go in the doors. It's a personal story, but it's a true story. My mom, again, I've mentioned we were very religious growing up. She was extremely religious, had grown up extremely controlled, and she wanted to go to church with us one Sunday. And it was outside of her stream. She was afraid, but she was excited. I'll never forget, we walked up. I grabbed the door. I go to open it to let her in and my wife and my kids. And she turned white almost. Fear gripped her. She said, "I can't do it." She ran back to her car and left. After service, I talked to her. I was like, "What's going on?" She said, "I'm not clean enough. I can't dare go in." How many times is that repeated? Every single time that the doors are open. Every single time somebody tries to get close to God. The stuff in their head, I'm not worthy. I shouldn't even dare approach God. That's religion. That's the thug, the bully, the bouncer. Remember, instead of beholding the Lamb, who is the doorway, we work the path of self-improvement, of self-salvation. The narrow way is beholding the Lamb. The wide path, self-improvement, self-salvation. The narrow path is not hard to find and travel. Remember, it's simply the awareness of Christ, the awareness of God incarnate, the understanding that He is the only way. Anything that I can do is not the way. Then we looked at why Jesus used the word strive. Why did Jesus tell us to strive to enter the gateway if no work is required, right? Remember, we talked about that He's already established in the Sermon on the Mount that our works, our good deeds, our good behavior, our performance is worthless. When He preached His sermon, Jesus pointed out that everything you think you're good at, He looked at adultery, murder, whatever. He would always say, you've heard it said, don't do this. Thou shalt not murder. Thou shalt not commit adultery. And then He would say, hey, if you hate someone in your heart, you've already murdered. If you lusted after someone, you've already committed adultery. So He simply pointed out, here's the rules. You've heard that. But I know your heart. I know your thoughts. I know what you did last night. What He did right there is say, I still am here. I love you. And you haven't impressed me with those works. They're filthy rags. And the hope was to expose in the heart of the hearer this dependence. To expose that my works, I'm not doing any good. That, yeah, on the outside, people think I'm awesome. But on the inside, I've got some stuff. And then with that exposure, He was calling him to Himself. That's what the whole point is of the Sermon on the Mount. It's not a list of do's or don'ts. It's not the New Testament 10 Commandments. I used to preach that. And so many do. This is the New Testament, 10 Commandments. This is our new rules. If you look at yourself, how many of them did you miss just this morning? How many of those things did you miss yesterday? How many of those things did you come up short on Friday? Right? If we're honest with ourselves, you may go, I got 3 out of the 10. I got 9 out of the 10. Maybe you're really good last week. Well, unless you're hitting it all cylinders, all 10 of 10, every single day, every single minute, it's not any good. It's worthless. He exposed the facade. We're good. Look at my works. So we're going to pick it up today. We look at what Jesus is not saying, that we must overcome fleshly weaknesses in order to pass the test and be qualified for heaven. He says it takes effort to stay the course, but not because it's a decision between smoking and non-smoking in eternity. Over here, the non-smoking is you're next to him in heaven. The smoking section is you're cooking. You're frying daily in the fiery pit. It's not what it's about. If that's all this was about, choose God because I don't want to cook for eternity. Choose God because I don't want to I don't want to go to hell. What's the point of that? What's really the reward in that? Whew! I'm not going to cook. The choice is between love and acceptance and inclusion. The choice is believe him, trust him, believe what he believes, or work and work and work and work and work and work. At the end of the day, you're still going to be in his presence, but you worked your life trying to please him when you're already pleasing. We strive to enter the narrow gate because for the same reason we strive to enter rest. Remember this from the mirror. The conclusion is clear. The original rest is still in place for God's people. God's rest celebrates his finished work. Whoever enters into God's rest immediately abandons his own efforts to improve what God has already perfected. Let us be prompt, therefore, to understand and fully appropriate that rest and not fall again into the same trap that snared Israel in unbelief. It takes effort to trust what God has already accomplished on our behalf. It's a walk of faith. It's agreeing with God, believing what he believes about us. It's agreeing with God and believing what he believes about us. It's not if we say the right thing, then he believes. If we do the right thing, then he accepts. It's believing what he already knows to be true. It's agreeing with what he believes, what he knows. We are to trust him with that, walk in faith. Walk in faith doesn't come easy or naturally to us. It's not in our nature. Our nature is actually to be in control. Give us the rules and we'll earn our keep, making things right. Think about life, just everything. When you go to work in the morning, isn't it nice when the boss just says, here's what I want to accomplish today? Here's what I want to accomplish this week. At the end of the week on Friday, you get the old attaboy. You did a great job this week, and you go home and you're satisfied. If we don't have those rules, self-employment, for example, owning a business, not everybody can do that because you have to do it yourself. There's no rules in place. There's no one watching you telling you did good. It's easier to have rules. It makes life simple. I do this, and I go home. End of the day, collect my check, right? Entering by the narrow way, the narrow gate, is a conscious decision to disregard self-effort works. having confidence that God means what he has said, and then to allow our heart to be established in his promise, to allow our heart to find security. That's what being established in, our heart to be anchored in what he believes, what he has promised. Maybe this will make it a little clearer, make it easier to understand. Let's see the two gates as voices, both vying for our attention. One speaks truth. Come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. The other one speaks the lie of the ages. Did God really say? That's the two gates. If we just see it that simple. One says, come to me, you'll find rest. One says, you sure? Did you get it right? Is that the way God said it? Is that what he told you to do? And we doubt. And then we go back to the drawing board and we try again tomorrow to do it right. Because we're not totally sure. Did he really say? Is that what he really meant? Is it really that easy? Right? The fall of man started the moment Eve lost confidence in God. Let's read the account here. Genesis 3, 1 through 3. Now the snake was the most clever of all the wild animals the Lord God had made. One day the snake said to the woman, did God really say that you must not eat from any tree in the garden? Here it is. Did God really say? He's testing. Are you sure? Are you sure about what you believe? Did God really say that? That's what's going on here. He's trying to trip her. And then the woman answered, we may eat fruit from the trees in the garden, but God told us you must not eat the fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden. That's right. But then she adds, you must not even touch it or you will die. Look what happened right there. She adds to it. She's not totally confident. She started out good. We may not eat the trees. That's the absolute truth. Don't touch this tree of the knowledge. Don't eat this tree of the knowledge of good and evil. He never said don't touch it. In fact, I would even say it was part of how they, in the garden, they were supposed to take care of the garden. They probably took care of this tree, pruned it and nurtured it and all these things. They weren't supposed to eat it though. At the end of the verse, she shows that she wasn't sure. She wavered. She didn't even really say anything wrong. If you really think about it, God said not to eat it. You know what? We've chosen not to even touch it. We just stay away from that thing. Okay. But she says God said we're not even supposed to touch it or we'll die. The enemy right there knew, I've got her. She wavered and the snare was set for mankind and it was sprung. We must not even touch it. Right there. If she would have been confident, if she would have said, matter of fact, he said, don't eat it, so we're not eating it. She had left it at that, she would have won that battle. But she doubted. The enemy caught it, and he played her. God never said this. The snake knew it because he had exposed her confusion about God's actual words. He was free to feed her the snack. Once that snare was sprung, I got him. Oh, hey, why don't you go ahead and eat this thing? It's a shiny, I know we call it an apple. It's a shiny apple. Go ahead. It's good for you. You're going to know everything. You're going to be just like God if you do this. He played her. The same lie has confused us and held us captive to fig leaf sowing to this very same day. To right now, we still sow fig leaves and try to make ourselves presentable to God. The narrow gate is simply Jesus plus nothing. The wide gate is works plus Jesus as a good luck charm. Catch that. Jesus plus nothing, narrow gate. Wide gate, okay, I'm going to follow Jesus. I'm going to work and then I'm going to bring Jesus with me. I'm going to work and Jesus and. Narrow gate, Jesus plus nothing. Wide gate, Jesus with works. That's simple. It's hard to enter through Jesus alone because our flesh wants rules in order to create checklists. See, God, I'm a good person. My list is almost perfectly complete. It wouldn't be fair for you to not let me in. I deserve it. Whew. If we're honest with ourselves, that's why we work the list. We think we can deserve it. We think we can earn it. Our flesh wants to follow the example of our great-grandparents. Don't worry, God. I've got this. I can take care of myself. Look at the clothes I made. We hid our shameful nakedness. We fixed our failure. We fixed our shortcoming. It's only when we realize that we don't got this and trust His provision that we find rest. We have to be careful. That doesn't mean that we have to, I don't have this. I suck so bad that God is going to have that Eeyore type of thing. I'm just so worthless. I'm a slug. And okay, God, I believe that and I accept what you... No, I can't make myself good enough. That's all it is. Recognizing that I don't have this. I don't have it all together. I can't fix my state. It's that simple. We do that, trust His provision, and then we find rest. Matthew 11:28-30 out of the Message is my favorite translation of this piece of text. It's brilliant. It's truth. It's loaded. Are you tired? Worn out? Burned out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me and you will recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. That is the truth. The unforced rhythms of grace. Learn to walk with me, to trust me. The rhythm of grace. It has a cadence to it. It's walking with Him. It's the rhythm of grace. It's happy. It's our heartbeat connected with Him. We're in sync. It's the rhythm of grace. As we receive His grace and abide in His restful persuasion that Jesus does in fact got this, we experience true life. Romans 5:20, the law came in that the trespass might abound. But where sin abounded, grace abounded more exceedingly. We're going to learn some stuff here. There are two different Greek words that make up abound or abounded. But where sin abounded, pleonzo, I know that's not right, but it means to exist in abundance or increase. So sin abounds, it's existing, it's in abundance, it's on the increase. Listen, grace abounded, which is hooper is you, something like that, which is a combination of two words. Hooper, H-U-P-E-R, over, beyond, more than. And perisio, to exceed a fixed number of measure, a thing which comes in abundance or overflows onto one. Something falls to the lot of one in large measure. Put those together. Hooper, perisio, hypergrace. Hypergrace. Where sin abounds, which is present, it's on the up, grace superabounds. Grace is hyper. Grace is huge. Grace is over or beyond or more than what sin is doing. Whatever sin has accomplished, whatever level it's reached, grace supersedes it. Grace goes beyond it. That's hypergrace. A lot of discussion on that. A lot of people even hate that word today. Oh, hyper grace, hyper grace. But that's exactly what the word says. Grace is hyper. It's super abundant. Sin once used death, fueled by the law, to rule us. But God's abundant, over the top, hyper grace beat death to death. Beat death to death. Eliminated, finished death. Bottom line, anything less than grace that is fantastical is just that, less than grace. This is where mixture comes in. Be careful, we grace plus, we put in rules, and yeah, it's all grace, brother, but come on, we need to show God some respect. We need to show him that we understand and that we appreciate what he's done on our behalf, and so that requires some behavior, some right behavior, some we better live right. We better not watch a rated R movie and whatever. Women should wear a dress all the way to the ground, show their skin. Men should not shave the sides of their beards. Whatever. List the stuff. Grace plus rules is nothing but rules still. That's nothing but law still. It may look like grace. It may have the word grace in its title. But anything less than a grace that is fantastical, that is hyper, that is abundant, over the top, is less than grace. If it's less than grace, then it ain't grace. Grace is the one thing that separates true Christianity from religion. I don't care if you have grace in the name of your church building. I don't care if your denomination has First Grace Church of whatever. It means nothing if when you walk in the door, you immediately have this sense of obligation. You have this sense of decorum. You have this sense of, I don't think I got the right clothes on. Oh, I'm a little underdressed right now. As soon as if you feel that sense of, I'm not welcome here in my current state, it's not grace. Grace welcomes you. You should walk into any situation, any group, any huddle, any facility, any service, any whatever, and not ever feel less than the others in the room. Grace is the one thing that separates true Christianity from religion. I'm going to tell you right now, any group that makes you feel unworthy, unclean, not quite good enough, it is religion. I don't care what it says about itself. I don't care how much they claim they're not religious. If there's any sense of rules or obligation, it's religion. Bottom line, it's a bouncer and there's a thug at the door trying to make you feel like you don't belong yet because they want control. I say they. I know that everybody teaches what they've been taught. So it's not really about them and me and us and them and all that stuff. But the majority of Christianity is simply churchianity. And it has too many rules. There wouldn't be all these denominations if it didn't. Anything less than grace that is fantastical is less than grace. Grace is truly extreme. Grace is unfathomable, inexplicable, and hyper. Grace is over, above, and beyond your wildest expectations. Whatever you understand grace to be right now, however good you have it in your head, I don't care if you're a gracer. I've had my awakening. I no longer believe like I used to believe. I don't mix the law anymore. Great. I'm glad for that. But I'll tell you, even the way I understand grace today, it's still bigger than I got my brain around. There's still more to understanding this. There's still more layers. There's no limit to it. We should be excited to continue to grow in understanding. Whatever I understand right now, whatever I expect from grace right now today, it's bigger. It's wilder. It is untamed. Whatever expectation I have today is not enough. It's bigger than that. However big I understand God, and however big I see God, and however big I proclaim God today, tomorrow I better be blown away about what I found out tomorrow. And next week I better be blown away by what I discovered next week. And so on. And so let's just continue beyond my wildest dreams and expectations. This is the gospel. It's the good news. God's grace is as great as his power, as limitless as his love, and given to all. Grace that is hyper means no one is beyond the reach of Papa's love. Grace that is hyper, grace that is bigger, wilder, fantastical, over the top, starts with the fact that no one's outside. If in your head you say, they, them, if that's still going on in there, gotta get rid of it. Because we need to see and go, they are in, and they are in, and he is in, and she is in, and we are in. That's the way our minds got to shift. Grace as hyper means no one is beyond the reach. No one. How dirty, filthy, stinky we may perceive them, they're not beyond God. The narrow gate is simply believing what God believes about you. Well, we're at the end of our time today. Another week. I sure hope, again, as always, that somehow you're getting something out of the stuff that comes out of my head. Maybe it's rambling. Maybe it's not. I just hope that you find something you can take with you for the rest of this week coming. Something that challenges you. Something that enlarges your understanding. Something that makes you smile when you think of God this week. I'll see you next time. Cheers.